Hey folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, this is going to be our first Space Marine 2 build video. So I finally reached level 25 on my Heavy, and I've having a lot of fun with this character. Melee was a bit of a learning curve, so I thought, give range to try, and I kind of just fell in love with the Heavy. So what we're going to do is going to go through what the build I'm using, and what sort of weapons I'm using on it. So let's take a look. If you've watched any of our Dark Tide content on the channel, this will basically be the same sort of format, really. So, let's first look at the perk tree. So this is what it looks like. We're starting off with the middle perk here, multi-kill, because we're using the Multimelta. So, killing 5 more enemies with one shot from a Multimelta restores 1 ammo. This is pretty good, to be honest. It does exactly what it says on the tin, gives you 1 ammo back for killing 5 enemies at once, and on higher difficulties like 3 and 4, the density is going to be really high, so this is going to proc quite a lot. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any internal cooldown for this, so just big hordes equals not using ammo, which is always good. If you don't want to use this talent, you can always go for auxiliary ammunition. When your primary weapon is out of ammo, killing 10 enemies in rapid succession restores ammo reserve by 20%. Cooldown is 30 seconds. So there are points in each map where you're going to be super dry on ammo. So let's take the first map, Inferno. It's basically from the drop point until the Imperial Guard encampment, there seems to be very, very, very little ammo. And it's quite intense between those 2 points. And if you've got a group that aren't working together particularly well, like you have, I don't know, an assault player who just seems to be eating all of the ammo for reasons unknown, this will probably help. So you will lose the guaranteed ammunition from the Multimelta, but you also have now an emergency way of getting ammo back. So it is a toss-up here for whichever one you prefer. I just tend to stick with multi-killer because there's always hordes, but this doesn't help if you then run out of ammo. Next up, we're going for Fortitude because it is just a flat increase of 20% health. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, you can go for when range weapon is 50% overheated, range damage is increased by 15%, but this doesn't work for a multi-melter build. This will only be working for either the plasma or the heavy bolter. So for a multi-melter, Fortitude is your best shot, really. And next up, we're going to go for Overwhelming Power. When Iron Halo is active, all Space Marines within 10 meters deal 10% more range damage. This does include you. I do think it should add that to the tooltip, that it includes you, but maybe they just thought it'd be, take it for granted that it means. But this is just a really nice damage increase here. I mean, your other choices are damage of charge attacks increased by 20%. Again, doesn't help with Multimelta. After switching weapons, your secondary weapon does 20% more damage. This effect lasts until you're reloading or switching back to your primary weapon. Again, doesn't help your main weapon. This is just going to give you a big flat damage boost. Next up, we're going for the team buff, which is additional supplies. Ammo capacity for all squad members' weapons is increased by 25%. Again, as I said, we're using the Multimelta, so this is going to help give us a big chunk. You should be running at about 29 shots with this, and without using the Multimelta that gives more ammo. So it helps. And you add in additional supplies with Multikiller, it should keep you running just that little bit longer. Next up, we've got the gear screen, and we're going for Emperor's Protection. When Iron Halo expends all of its energy, 1 armor segment is restored for all squad members. I was using Consecutive Execution, but it's 180-second cooldown, and it restores equipment charges, which is just an armor pip every time you've used Iron Halo. Well, when you've used all of its energy, I'd say it's a bit more useful. Just sort of give some flat defense for the entire group. If you want the equipment, then obviously go for this one, but I would say Emperor's Protection is a lot better. Next up, we've got Obdurate Bastion. Iron Halo's duration is increased by 20%. Again, big, flat defensive buff. I don't really rate these other two. A 30% durability reduction isn't that great. And Iron Halo loses 15%. It's just... you just want it to be tougher. In this game, it's very, very black and white with what you want. You want to be alive. You want to do more damage. And next up in the gear slot, we have Brute Force. When Iron Halo is on cooldown, range damage is increased by 15%. You're going to be flicking Iron Halo on and off all the time. And this is just a nice big damage increase for you. And last but not least, the signature ability. Conversion Field. When Iron Halo is active, all squad members within 100 meters regenerate ability charges 50% faster. Your team will love you for this. It's very, very useful. I've been running this quite a lot, and I've had great success with it. But as you may or may not know, this is very, very helpful, but most of your power does come from your weapons. And as you can see, I've just jumped into Artificer, and I'm leveling up the Multimeltas. So all three of them are completely usable, although I would say my favourite is the Salvation of Baka, just because of the range increase. This gives you a lot more leeway in fights than getting up close and personal, getting your head kicked in. Especially if you take this Multimelta and go into the perk trees here. I'll quickly go through this. We're going for increased ammo capacity, elite restoration. Killing a Majora's level or higher enemy restores 10% of maximum ammo reserve, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity, your cooldown is 30 seconds. But then we're going to be grabbing heavy fire while in heavy stance. Fire rate is increased by 15%, which is very useful with Multimelta because it does have quite a slow fire rate. Then we're going to grab heavy immunity while in heavy stance. You do not lose control from heavy hits. This is very, very, very good, because if you are at a point where you're going to be overwhelmed, this lets you carry on firing instead of being staggered and then beaten to hell. We will be grabbing the increased range here before we are heading into the Artificer to grab Executioner's Fire, then more damage. Because we're probably just not going to bother taking the flat damage increase to Tyranids, because, I mean, you're going to be fighting both. So we're going to ignore that, take some extra range, and stop here at increased capacity. So it will end up going Executioner's Fire, Heavy Might for 15% more damage, Heavy Might for 15% more damage, so that's 30% in all there. Then Death Strike. After killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a melee weapon, you deal 25% more damage for 5 seconds. This just lets you get a huge damage spike after an execute. So after you execute, you do a lot more damage. So you can basically chain off of gaunts if you want to. From what I can tell, this does work with Gunstrike executions. So even though it says melee weapons, for some reason it was working with Gunstrike. It might not be anymore. That could have been a bug, so if it's not working for you, then it's already been patched. So, but it's very good for just executing gaunts and then turning around and blazing away into another pack. And we're going to end up here with increased capacity for another 20% ammo reserve. It'll keep you running. And what we're going to have a look at now is we are going to take a look at our secondary, which is, I'm still using the plasma pistol. I do tend to use this one just because it's got more ammo, and this is for mostly executing and for when you're running around and you don't want to waste a shot of the Multimelta because there's only one or two things there, or you're trying to blow the head off of a Tyranid warrior or a Chaos Space Marine that's trying to summon in reinforcements. A charged shot from this will take its head straight up its shoulders. As you can see, not quite into the relic stuff yet. I haven't been playing that much, and we're slowly moving up on the live streams, so we're trying not to get too far ahead of ourselves. But all this will work further on. Basically, out of all these, you pick what you want. I would generally go for the Ophelia Liberation, just because it's got the increased rate of fire and increased damage. But just remember, most of the power comes from your perk trees in your weapons, not from your actual class. The class talents do help, but this is where all of your power comes from, really. And for the perks, we're going with common cooling, into rapid cooling, into blast radius, supercharged shot for more damage, and then probably into blast radius again to make that shot nice and big, so it makes it even more difficult to fail a headshot. And then we're just going to blast along here to charge up even faster. And then after a perfectly timed dodge, the damage radius of a charged shot is increased by 10% for 5 seconds. Again, this will make snapping off shots that much easier. And also, the blast radius does do a lot more damage. So you can just fire into a group of things and watch them explode. But as we play on more, get more experience, these builds will change. And they'll probably change with hotfixes and whatnot. So do keep an eye out. There will be a lot more to come. Just thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed, please do like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.